so ladies and gentlemen, this is what you guys will be working on today. It's a little bit different because it's using some big words, which we generally don't use big words afterwards. So, here's the dealio for today. So, next week we'll be starting off our new and final topic on Japan. Okay? I don't know why I said it like that. We'll be starting that next week. Now guys, it's a new topic for you. It's also a new topic for anyone here. No you're actually done Japan before in history, so that's awesome. So I will be giving you your project next week. I'm going to give it to you nice and early, as in the very start of next week, and I'll talk about why I'm doing that. You'll have the whole term to complete it. So we'll talk about that next week. We'll also talk about what we're looking at, the topics that we're covering. You already know about working with the school in South Australia. So, like I said to Nick before, they'll get back to us. They're on holidays still. They're on holidays for, I think they've been on holidays on this week. I think they're back next week. And I'll talk about what exactly we're going to do that as well with those guys, which is pretty cool. Do some peer assessment stuff. But what you're going to do today is I've given you these things and they're called key inquiry questions. Now, does anyone want to have a stab at what that sounds like other than me trying to sound smart? No.
Questions and stuff?
Wow, that sums it up. Okay, so next week we'll be looking at Japan. Now we're going to be looking at, with Japan, we're going to be looking at a certain period of time, okay, like we did with medieval Europe. Okay, we can't look at all of Japan because we'll be there all day. So we are looking at a certain period of time, which is this one here, 794 to 1867. So we're looking at about 1,000 plus years in Japan. And it's kind of cool actually because Japan, a few times, was a very closed country. Okay, so unlike, say, Europe, where they had influence, like they still travelled around, they had influences from all around Europe, okay, like England, we looked at England mostly, but they travelled across into Europe and they had all these different cultures. With Japan, it's a little bit different. There are times where they actually completely shut their borders and no one said hi. And because they're an island and they're kind of a little bit out away from everybody else, it wasn't like Europe where they could just jump across and say, hey, how you doing? So they are a very cool culture and history to study because they're very kind of shut off back then. Their biggest threat came from the Mongols and China as well because they were kind of close to China. So we'll have a look at that. So it's a really, really interesting, really cool topic to check out. So we'll be doing that, and that's the timeline that we're looking at. So before we start, I'm guessing nobody here knows anything, and I say that broadly, about this kind of Japanese history in this time. If I do that again, I will smash it. Japanese history from this timeline. Or am I wrong? Does anyone know about anything? No, sorry?
History, because we did ancient China. We talked a little bit about it last year.
Oh, really? About Japan?
We kind of linked
Not
it a little
much.
bit.
You probably did you talk about the Mongols?
Yeah.
Mongols were nasty, man. The Mongols, they killed a lot of food. Genghis Khan. He was, wow. Genghis Khan was busy, and not just busy in killing, but busy in making little baby Genghis. He was all over the place. So, anyway, so, before we start, what I'm going to do is I'm going to present you with these key inquiry questions. I'm going to present you with 4 questions, which are going to kind of make you think about what we're going to be looking at. Now, generally what you do with these inquiry questions, they're kind of I give them to you before we start a topic, and I don't get you to answer them. Okay, these are questions that we're going to be looking at over the course of the term, and then by the end of the term, you can answer these. Okay, that's kind of how it works. It requires a little bit of knowledge. But what I'm doing is I'm going to give them to you first, and I'm going to get you to research them. So inquiry questions require research and knowledge to answer. Okay, it's not just, are you hungry? Yeah. It's, you need to actually look into it, you need to research, you need to have some knowledge to be able to answer these questions. Okay, because there is some definite responses that are needed. So, what I've got here is, you probably don't know a great deal about Japan as yet. Okay, but you will all be pros at this by the end of the term. Okay, so, these are the inquiry questions I want you to answer this for them. Okay, so to do this, you're going to need to do research yourself. Okay, and again, it's a very broad question, so It's a tricky task, but I want to see how you go. So, here are 4 questions I want you to answer today, while knowing nothing about Japan history. Okay, so it's all going to come down to your research. So, how did the society in Japan change from the end of the ancient period to the beginning of the modern age? Now, there are words there that you may not even know. So, what is the ancient period? What is the modern age? What? So, you need to actually kind of look that up as well. You need to look up, wait, alright, so when was the end of the ancient period in Japan? You need to kind of figure that out. And when did the modern age start? Alright, you've got that. And now you need to figure out, okay, so how does society change? What? Okay, so a little bit of work involved in these questions. Alright? What key beliefs and values emerged in Japan and how did they influence society? Another pretty broad one. Alright, so what beliefs, what values did Japanese people have in this time? Okay, and how did it influence the society of Japan as a whole? What were the causes and effects? Now we've talked about causes and effects a lot. What were the causes and effects of contact between Japan and other societies in this period? So in this timeline, okay, especially when we get up around here, Japan started having contact with other countries, other societies, and how did that change Japan as a whole? Okay, we touched on the Westernization the other day when we were chatting, but I want you to look at that. And then finally, which significant Japanese people, groups, and ideas from this period have influenced the world today? So, in this timeline here, in this time, what people or groups or ideas, okay, came from that time and have influenced the world today? So we're still looking at that, we're still doing that kind of thing, alright? Like when we talked about medieval Europe, we talked about science starting to come out, and we're still using that. So what ideas, significant ideas, groups, people came out of this timeline? Now, they are 4 very tricky questions, am I right? Yes, especially because you know nothing about this. Now, if I turn this around and I replace Japan and I replace that with, say, medieval Europe, and I ask these same kind of questions, you'd be able to answer them now. Yes? Mm-hmm. Yes, okay. So, that's what I've got here. So by the end of the term, by the end of this term, when we finish our unit on Japan, you'll be able to come back to these and you'll be able to go boom, 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 and you'll know them all, hopefully, which is why I'm hopefully there. So what I want to do right now is I want to see what you can find out, what you know now. Alright, and we will come back to these 8 weeks from now. And we'll see what we've actually learned. Have we learned what we originally thought? Is that wrong now? Okay, have our ideas changed? That's the point of this. So, it's kind of cool. That's what we're going to do today. And while we're doing that, and by we, I mean you, you need to be doing it quietly, please, because I'm going to be going around with your castle projects, and I'll be having a chat with you about those. Okay, individually, one-on-one, have a little chat, talk about all of those kind of things you'll find out. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be a fun day. So, I've sent you that link. Now, this is what I think you will do today. Okay, you will spend a little bit of time on this. You have the whole session to do this, and I want to wrap it up in this session. Okay, so we're just looking at 65 minutes. Okay, 70 minutes even. So I don't know, 15 to 20 minutes. I'd say 20 minutes on each question.
Yeah.
Probably be about right. So it's going to require you research stuff. Again, I don't want you just Googling still sounds funny. Like, I don't want you just to Google that and find an answer and copy and paste it in there. Okay? I want you to try and figure out what you can find out and what you understand and what you know. You might not be able to get an understanding on these, and that's fine. Okay? Because we're going to come back to it in a term and say, hey, look at this. You figure this out now. Okay? But I still want you to research this and see what you can find out and what you understand. That's the key thing. What do you understand from these 4 inquiry questions? Alright, if you put a big answer down there that you've just nicked out of Wikipedia and you don't understand it, then that's no good to me at all.
Yeah.
Okay? I'll come back and I'll question some of you. If this is your response, explain it to me. You should be able to explain it to me. Okay? That's the key. Does that make sense to everybody? Lads, Ronan, everyone? So what are we doing?
Doing the 4.
Nothing.
We have 65 to 70 minutes to do those 4 questions.
Yep.
And we have to work quietly whilst you come around.
Now what's the point of these? What are the points?
So we have an understanding of
Well, kind of. So what I want to do is I want to see what you know now and what you can research and what you can understand now. okay, before we even start the unit, and then we come back to it in a term from now, and we see what we learned, and we compare this, like we'll do this again in one term, and we'll see what we know now, and what we know then, okay? So, here are the 4 questions. I'll repeat them one last time so they're nice and clear, alright? How did the society in Japan, so the society being the people, the group, okay, everyone in Japan, how did they change from the end of the ancient period, which you'll need to figure out when that time is, alright, I didn't put it in there, and when the beginning of the modern age is, alright, how did they change? How did people change? Again, look at our medieval Europe studies that we did. We know how the people changed from the start to the end. Okay, we saw those changes happening. What key beliefs and values emerged in Japan and how did they influence society? So, in that timeline, what did people believe? What were their values? And by values we mean... Anyone? Bueller? Anyone? Values. What are their key values? How do they live their life? Let's go to medieval Europe. What were their key beliefs and values? Church. Exactly, okay? Christianity. Their values were generally, please don't die, but also they were all about God, so everything was being honest and living their life well, and the king, and all that kind of stuff. So that's the same as Japan as well. What were their key beliefs and values that emerged in that time, and how did it influence society? Okay? What were the causes and effects of contact between Japan and other societies? So what happened in this time when other people started going down to Japan and checking them out, saying, hey, what's going on? What happened? What were the effects? And finally, what significant people, groups, or ideas from this period influence the world today? What happened in that timeline? People, groups, religion, anything like that that influenced the world today. Nintendo didn't happen between 794 and 1867, I'm afraid, Luke. That's it. So you guys are doing that now. So I would suggest that you start writing this up in pages, do it there, and then once you've done your 4 questions, which need to be completed today, your 4 answers, put it in as a reply to this. Okay? Because we'll come back to it at the end of the term and see how it went. So put your name on these ones, please, so I know. At least put your name, your actual name when you post it, not Nick the something or other, because it's different every other day. Are we good with that? Excellent. All right, let's begin. And I'm going to come around to you one-on-one now and chat about Castle projects.